Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about the Ottoman fast castle. It is different from the feudal all-in, and that is what most people play, so I wanted to bring you guys a different build order. It's very effective and I've had it used against me, and I've been using it against other players, which we're going to be taking a look at today. So this video will be a little bit different. It won't be against AI, it'll be a normal game from some practice I had against another player. So you'll see how it works and how you finish the game with the build order. So yeah, enjoy the video. When we spawn in, we want to go with 5 on stone, we want to go with 1 on wood, and then we send our scout out around our base to gather those safe sheep. We want to be opening up with a military school, and the reason we do that is because we want to apply pressure early and force out archers from our opponent when they get to feudal age. Sometimes you have opponents like the Abbasid, which I'm up against here, that will go for the military wing, where they spawn in 2 spears and 2 archers, so you have to be mindful of that as well when you are out harassing early on. We drop our military school here. And the reason that we're not dropping it somewhere like here or up here is because the gold will be the first resource that I'm going to exhaust here. So when I'm planning the blacksmith layout, I'm going to turn my military schools like here. I'm not going to build it out here. That's too big of a risk, and I'm not going to gain anything from doing that really, because I'm not even going to have that much production early on. So instead, I'm going to build it here under the town center. Never build it outside of the town center range. I'm going to build the house towards the wood line. Seems to me that it's the best way, because then you'll always have a safe spot for your house, and the house will also not block for your landmark, for your military schools. And the lumber camp will go down just beside it. We're scanning around a little bit to the middle, getting the sheep, and then when the spearman is out, we're going to take our scout with our spearman. We're going to go find the opponent's gold or stone. We want to see what they're doing, and try to apply some pressure that way. Get some idle time, because it's all about the idle time with those early units. If you can idle a second town center 30 seconds, so delay it 30 seconds, you can do a lot of damage that way. And the more you delay your opponent here early on, the better for you, because you're gonna go castle age and you're gonna have better units, but it's much easier when your opponent is not playing picture perfect. Alright, so we had 6 on food, we had 2 on wood, and the 2 on wood went and built a mining camp. We're gonna go with 9 on food, 3 on gold, and then we just rallied the rest of our villagers onto food. I will of course describe all this in the build order that I've linked in the description, but this is the basics of the build order. You're gonna be able to age up at around 250, 255, something like that, and then go into feudal age around 430. So we're gonna skip ahead a little bit here. Spearman will come out, the scout will move with it, and so you drop your sheep off here when the spearman comes out, and then you move together. You're looking for that gold, for that stone. The landmark will be built with 4 villages, because we still want to get a good timing. We don't want to be delaying ourselves too much. Then we're going to go with 4 on food, and we're going to keep our gold villages on gold. The rest will go to wood, because we want to be dropping down an archery range, potentially a stable early. The thing is, with the gold, and this is why this build order is a little bit different from the other videos that I've done, it is that you have to be able to adapt. So sometimes you can just go food and gold and go straight to castle age. Sometimes there's pressure in the game, and this is why this build, you have to be able to adapt. It's perhaps a bit more advanced in that sense, but I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm going to gather the first gold here. I think I go up to 200 gold, but my opponent has gone for military wing, and I don't have enough units to deal with those immediately. So I have to pull off gold and then make a few more units in feudal. And that's okay, but if our opponent didn't open up with aggression, I could just stay on the gold, add a little bit more later, and then get a minute earlier timing for castle age. Look, it doesn't matter as long as you have control of the game. So I spot the military wing here. I know that he's going to go for the 2 spears, the 2 archers, and most likely a stable as well. It's a very common opening nowadays for the Abbasid. It's meta, I would almost say, for them, and so you can almost expect this when you play against the Abbasid. So spearmen, don't have them hang around here and lose them eventually to the units. Just send them back and then add them to a defensive force. When you're aged up, you're going to work towards getting an archery range, because you already have spearmen, so archers are naturally to deal with his spearmen and archers. We are macroing on wood, because we want to get production buildings, which is nice for Ottomans, that the production buildings also only cost 100. It makes it a lot easier for you to react to what your opponent is doing. We are about 5 minutes into the game now. We have almost got the vizier point. The order of the vizier points is going to be fieldwork into military campus, fast training. You don't want to be picking advanced academy over fast training because it's going to take a long time to get those knights out. And you most likely won't have enough military schools out immediately, unless you choose to play with a lot of military schools early, though I would not recommend it for this build. I would go for standard production buildings and get knights and archers out, because it's a lot quicker than setting up military schools and waiting for them to actually produce the units. So I would say get those 1-2 archer ranges and 1-2 stables, and then you can start thinking about military schools. But more on that later. We have our setup here, always 4 in berries to work the twin minaret address landmark. We want to macro on food if we are looking for an H-up. We want to balance it out wood and food if we want to make more units. And so sometimes when you have to adapt, you're going to be placing your villagers. Sometimes they go more in wood, sometimes they go more in gold. It all depends on what you scout, what your opponent is doing. And this is called adapting. Sometimes you just have to move things around. You just can't stay on the same resources, and that will lead to banking. So you can see I have quite a lot of food here. I'm going to start putting a lot more into gold and a little bit more to wood because I want to make a stable. So for the build order, at around this time is when I'm going to add a stable, and I also advise you add another blacksmith at this point. So I would macro a little bit more onto wood. I see my opponent is pretty heavy on the horseman front, and I'm starting to get some archers out. The military schools have also produced 1 Sipahi, and so I have a pretty good composition here for dealing with his units. Sipahi for his archers, the archers for the spearmen, and the spearmen for his horsemen. So we can defend the gold now. Now we can go on to the gold. I'm going to go with around 7 to 9 villagers, and then try to match it with my food so I can drop down the Imperial Armory. Speed up the process a little bit here. Stable has been added. We have a little bit more in wood because we want to produce a few more archers. I don't feel quite safe yet. I want to see what he's doing as well. So I see he's gathered the stone, and this means that he's going to go for a second town center. I'm going to look for that. Usually it's around the deer. So I know he's not going to put it here. That would be pretty stupid when he has a deer out here. There's also berries here. And so if he puts it around here, that's going to be a good position for him. But I have to confirm it where it is, because it's going to be my first priority target when I get to castle. It is making a good timing push on the second town center. If the opposite player loses the second town center plus some villagers, I'm going to be far ahead. So that's the goal here. Now I spot the second town center. Pretty good for me. Now I know where it is. He's on the berries. He hasn't gone full greed and gone on the deer yet. Now we can H up. We're going to H up with our food, and then we're going to try to macro towards getting blacksmith here, getting another stable. We want to have 2 stables when we go into Castle Age, because we can be producing from those 2 with just full knights. And then later on you add in more archers. When it comes to upgrades, you can always get double broadaxe, you can get the horticulture. You should also get the blacksmith upgrades first thing, so get the +1 ranged attack and defense. Defense for when you have to attack. And then if you're in a longer fight and you can't attack immediately, definitely prioritize the steeled arrow first, because the archers are going to be your main DPS. They're going to be the ones that take out all of your opponent's units, whereas the knights, well, they can't always take a fight, but the archers can always fire. So that's the composition, how it works here. Once the armory is up and the first mangonel has been produced, is around the time where we want to be going for a good push. Now we're Castle Age. We've got a second Vizier point. Now keep in mind with the first Vizier point, I said the order was fieldwork into military campus. We are following that here. So we got fieldwork a little bit earlier than aging up, which means our imams are now out on the relics immediately upon Castle Age. So you can see we are trying to defend it with our military units here. We want to grab those relics because they add a lot of gold income for us, and it's going to be a lot easier for us to get upgrades that way and more knights out when we have relics. We're going out on the pocket resources. I would prioritize deer, because deer is the fastest gathering resource that you can get as the Ottomans. Sometimes you get caught off guard, and this is what it looks like when your opponent is still in feudal. You still want to watch out because they have spears. So watch out with the knights. You can still take a lot of damage that way, and if you lose a lot of knights early, you're gonna be stuck with a far less powerful army when the opponent is gonna go to Castle Age, which is usually the time where you want to push. Our units are being produced right outside of the deer camp here, and so we don't really have to build a tower immediately, as our production can just instantly lead over here. And so that's one way to think about the defense of your food sources and outside pocket resources. You can move your army around where your eco is. We're not going to put our economy over here because we have no units going over here. Instead, we want to wall it off. Then we can put it over there. So the villages here, perfect spot because we can easily send units. Now we're looking for some more villager kills here. So we find his deer. Our archers are yet to be upgraded. It doesn't matter too much when our opponent is not castle age, but we want to get them as soon as possible because the veteran upgrades are so strong. And now the mangonel comes in. The mangonel is going to make it so that we can take a fight far easier. And yeah. Keep taking relics. Keep going on the deer. Keep making units. And then when you feel like it, you got the +1 ranged armor, is when you should be pushing in on the town center. So you can torch down the town center pretty easily. They only have 2500 health, but watch out. You still want to see if you can do more damage on the villages than the town center, because you might have to pull out again. So second town center, get the mangonel in, start taking some shots here, and then kill some villages. That should win you the game. It's going to make it so that your villager count is going to be the same when you take out the 10 villages here, or more. And remember, you also are going to have military schools. It's also around this point where you're going to be macroing towards the military schools. So put a few units, a few villagers on stone, and start building another blacksmith layout for those, because you need them for the knight production later on, which is why we go for the vizier point this way, just to get the knights later on. Right. So keep going forward like this. This game is pretty short because this push is very effective. I managed to take out the second town center here. And this is going to make it so that I can kill these villagers. Just like that. I'm going to show you the villager count now. 48 villagers versus 45. Remember, he's playing Abbasid Dynasty, and they usually want to boom, but he's not able to. Plus, he's lost a lot here. And so he's going to go castle at this time. And this is not really going to affect me too much because he didn't use all those resources that it cost him to go castle on units. He used it on going castle. And yes, he gets knights and all of that, but in reality, we have already a good army, so he has to play really passively and in the back line until he can mass up a good enough army to deal with this. And we just have 3 units coming in. We have 3 siege. We have 3 archers coming in. We have the knights out that are really strong, and we are taking all the relics. We have the map control. So that's the way this build works. It's pretty strong in that sense, I would say. Keep getting upgrades at this point. You want to be getting the survival techniques when you're on deer. You need to get wheelbarrow now, horticulture, and all the ranged armor upgrades and attack upgrades, because your army is going to be primarily archers. So when you have the +2 ranged armor, your archers will deal 9 damage. And when they are in castle age like that, you can actually do a lot of damage even to knights that have +1 ranged armor. So, as you can see here, the archers are incredibly effective. They just deal so much damage. So, you can take a fight like this if you have an opponent that doesn't have +2 ranged armor. Don't be too afraid to take fights like this, because your units are more... His units are more valuable to him than yours are, because they are less expendable. And so, in a situation like this, you're going to be in a better position. Let's say I couldn't finish the game here. I would just immediately go for more units, of course, but then also a keep drop. I would keep going for the outside resources. He's out of deer, of course, so he has to go for farm nutrition as well. And so, you can think of it in that sense. Go and do a keep drop, get the siege up, and then you can kill your opponent off. That's how you finish the game with this build. If not, then you have the military schools up, and you should be able to produce a lot of knights, and you can play a little bit longer game, but at some point you can push through. So, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And yeah, the build orders in the description below as well, if you didn't know. And yeah, go check out the Twitch and the other videos that I have on my YouTube channel. Have a good day and enjoy the build.